Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our last show for this fall season, which is Loyalty Part 2 after the elections. It's the new season, and it will be an exciting and memorable episode on Issues and Answers with yours truly, Honorable Valencia Stovall. Today is Monday, November the 18th, and you're listening for the next hour to WCEG Network. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into our community. You can log on to WCEGTalkRadio.com. You can watch us live on Smart TV, on Roku cable channel, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, WCEG Network. Like us on Facebook and Instagram. Connect with us on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Threads. Download our free WCEG mobile app, Alexa, or even tell Alexa, play WCEG Talk Radio. Listen to us on any of our 12 podcast distributions platforms. And you all know I must give you this disclaimer, especially today, because the topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests and not of WCEG Network. And we thank you for your continued support, and we want you to tell a friend because we're on. Yes, we got a hot topic today. So I want to start off with a moment of silence for a good friend of mine, Mary Dewberry, who passed away this morning. She's a strong community voice in Clayton County. And of course, her smile and laughter will truly be missed because she's always lighting up the room anytime she came around. And so our prayers are going out to her family for strength and peace during this time. So our last episode, I do a recap. So last time I shared my first international trip to Nigeria, Africa, and I'm still on cloud nine. I wish I was still up in the clouds flying over there, but that's a whole nother story. And I can't believe that I was there about 3 weeks ago. It don't seem like it was 3 weeks, y'all. The memories are still vivid. I visited the point of no return at Badagry in Lagos. I received my chieftaincy title bestowed to me by His Royal Majesty Oba, we call him King Jimo, and which I am a Yayimito of Papalanto of the Iwekoro local government in Ogun State, Nigeria, Africa. And that word Yayimito means mother of. So because I was sworn in with the chief title in Papalanto, it's a mother of Papalanto. So you all will be hearing coming up some work and things that we'll be doing over in Papalanto. And just for those who don't know, it's made up of a series of villages, and it's a part of the Owu Kingdom, which is the first kingdom of the Yoruba tribe. And for those who've been following me for a while, we've done several celebrations celebrating the Yoruba tribe. And they're known for the cultivation of sugarcane in Papalanto. So you can always Google it and you can find out more information about it. I also was able to visit His Royal Majesty Oba Matemi Milola, who is the Oluwu of Owu Kingdom, who is the head king for the Owu Kingdom. Of course, the most exciting part and memorable part was my marriage to Honorable Kehinde Abiola on October the 24th. And I'm looking forward to our lives together. And I want to congratulate him on his re-election on this past Saturday as council in Ogun. So as y'all can see, I have my Kenny hat. Yes. Okay. All right. So moving on. A lot has happened since our last show. We have had our national and local elections on November the 5th. And to some, it was a good day. Others, it was a bad day. The overall outcome of the votes in battleground states was a surprise. Former President Trump defeated Vice President Harris with the popular vote and the electoral vote. Both the House and the Senate are Republican controlled. And in Georgia, one of the battleground states went to former President, in Georgia, which was one of the battleground states, it did go to former President Trump. The Republicans retained control in the General Assembly in Georgia. And as soon as the former president was declared the winner, guess what, y'all? The finger started pointing in the Democratic camp. Oh yeah, they were pointy. And so my guest today, Mrs. Cherise Jefferson, who's a political strategist, will bring some insight on what actually happened this election cycle nationally and here in Georgia. So you all, I talk a lot about what happens in Georgia, but Cherise has her fingerprints on what's happening nationally. And I met Cherise back in 2022 and have appreciated her expertise in all things politics and health. So welcome, Cherise, to Issues and Answers.
Thank you so much, Valencia, for having me.
Thank you. So we're gonna jump right in it because I know some people had some pre questions that they want to answer, but we'll wait to we have our conversation, and it's always exciting when we talk about politics in Georgia, especially on the national level. So before we get started with that, can you tell us what is a political strategist? Because some people who are not astute to politics may not know what that terminology is or what their position is. And what led you to your journey as a political strategist?
Thank you so much again, Valencia. So, a political strategist is very interesting because the internet has a very narrow interpretation of what we actually do. Yes, we do advise political campaigns, but we also advise legislators. We advise their staff. We advise lobbyists, lobbying organizations, advocacy groups. We even go into the communities and we launch town halls so we can get a temperature check on what's going on in the community for the policies that we're trying to execute. And we also poll. We poll locally, we poll nationally. We're trained to poll. So when people ask me, what is a political strategist? My answer is very simple. We are the experts when it comes to public policy, and it's the public policy that drives the politics. That's what I do every single day.
And sometimes, like you said, I never even thought about the whole part about coming into the community and even holding those town halls. And like you said, we do. When I was elected, and even the times I've run for office, depend very heavily on the political strategies, because you all kind of have a bird's eagle's eye view, whereas as candidates we just have one thing we're looking at, and sometimes we can't see everything else in our political camp. So thank you for explaining that. So in September, my show topic was party loyalty versus people loyalty. And we had a discussion about how some people are loyal to a party versus them being loyal to the people who actually elected them into these positions. And sometimes when you're too loyal to a party, you forget about the people, and the people are left to the side. Now we are at post-election with the Dems' big upset. How do you see the party regrouping and regaining the confidence of its donors? Because I heard a lot about donors were very upset and wondering, whether they want to put their money back into it again. And loyal followers. You had a lot of people that were, that are Democratic followers. And even some people have gotten to the point where they couldn't even wake up the next morning. They were having a hard time getting out of bed. I mean, this was like devastating to a lot of people with this election. So I always say that Humpty Dumpty was sitting on the wall, then Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. So I'm gonna let you go in and kind of tell us what's the regrouping.
Valencia, I tried as best as I could to tell people what the outcome of this election was going to be. Valencia, I told you before the election the numbers were even released. And again, that's because as a political strategist, we go into the communities. I have been to a number of the swing states. The swing state that caught my attention the most was Pennsylvania. And going into a grocery store and seeing a gallon of milk that cost $8. Now, Pennsylvania is a relatively blue state. It's a battleground state, but it's a part of the blue wall with Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. It's a part of that blue wall. It's a union town, right?
Right.
So I knew after going into Pennsylvania, going into Ohio, North Carolina, my counterparts were in Nevada, in Arizona. I live in Georgia. I had the numbers, and I knew that Kamala wasn't going to win this. We all knew it. And any political strategist who tells you that they didn't know what this election was going to be like and what the outcome was going to be, they're lying. They knew, okay? This one was a very easy one to predict. Politics has been in my blood since I was a little girl because it starts with public service. I grew up in a household where my mom was a human rights advocate. I spent a considerable amount of time with my great grandparents who were born in 1900 and 1910. And the great grandmother that was born in 1910, she didn't pass away until I was 24. So imagine all of the stories that I heard from her over the years. And imagine sitting at her feet and just hearing so much of the things that she went through, from having to pay poll tax to walking a mile to the polls, and from civil rights to still fighting for civil rights. So there traditionally has always been party loyalty. I make no mistake in saying that I am a Democrat. I am a left, even though I work on both sides. I am a liberal, and I understand party loyalty, but I always tell both sides, don't have blind loyalty, because it boils down to the policies and the issues at hand. This is what it really boils down to. And the problem with the Democratic Party now is that it has gone so far left that it is literally losing its base. I don't even know how we're going to be able to get it back. I have had numerous conversations with leaders over at the DNC. I have had the phone hung up on me. I won't say by who, but it's someone who's very powerful in the DNC.
Yeah, what's the DNC?
The DNC is the Democratic National Committee.
Okay.
So we have in the Democratic Party, we have a hierarchy. So we have the Democratic Party of Georgia, which is our local state party. It's actually the party that I started my career in, my political career. My political career was launched right at the Democratic Party of Georgia. And then we have the DNC, and then we have another component, which is the DCCC, the Democratic Coordinated Campaign Committee, DCCC. So the DNC and the DCCC, they help support all of our elections, particularly the ones that are national. They do typically sometimes support local elections. It just depends on which statewide election is at play. But they mostly heavily support our congressional races.
Okay.
And so there are calls for a number of changes to happen at the DNC. You mentioned the donors, and I want to speak to your audience about that very, very honestly. And you know I'm a straight shooter.
Right.
We have donors who have pulled out and who are going to support other initiatives going forward, just simply because of how the resources were mismanaged and misused in the party. Let me be clear in saying that as Democrats, we can't do anything without the donors. The donors are our lifeline. Campaigns can't be won. We can't fundraise. Advocacy groups can't get their message out without donors. So there are calls at the national level for prosecution to take place, just simply because of how the mismanagement of the resources have been. I can't deny that shouldn't take place, because I'm thinking about what's going to happen in 2028, and I'm thinking about what's going to happen in 2032. We have to understand one fact about the GOP. And again, I work on both sides openly. We have to understand how the GOP operates. They run a long game.
Yes.
Okay? They run a long game. They sat and waited years before they decided to go in and overturn Roe v. Wade. They put in the strategy in overturning Roe v. Wade. They waited patiently to ensure that they had a majority on the U.S. Supreme Court. I still remember when President Obama nominated Merrick Garland, and how the Senate Majority Leader at the time, which was Mitch McConnell, how he literally let it linger until after the presidential election so that they could get Amy Coney Barrett in by way of Donald Trump. All right. They waited patiently to tear down part of affirmative action. And guess what? They're coming for the Affordable Care Act next. They run a long game. We're going to have to reorganize, we're going to have to restructure, but it cannot be with the same people that we currently have in office because the trust and the credibility is gone. And we can't, for the sake of our donors, we got to be able to show our donors that they can trust us. We got to be able to show the donors that we will be fiscally accountable. We will be socially responsible. And most importantly, we got to show our donors we can win elections by going back and doing the work that the Democratic Party has been doing for a number of years, especially during the Kennedy era, which is the party of the working class. That's where and what we have to get back to.
Yes. And definitely, even with the messaging for this election, it was veered way, in my opinion, not towards the working class. It was like they were just trying to throw something against the wall and hoping it was going to stick, and people just did not resonate with it. Another thing, I think there was not a lot of emphasis during the primary elections to getting people out and getting their minds acclimated to, hey, we're going to have a November election, so make sure y'all coming out in, for the primary.
And not only that, Valencia, the voters didn't even choose who was going to be the presidential nominee.
That part.
Sounds very familiar in what happened in Georgia, right? With Nikema Williams, okay? Now, let me tell you how that played out in Washington, because that was a big to-do as well. And I think a lot of that had to do ultimately with why she did not win. Kamala Harris ran for president in 2020, okay? She dropped out and didn't even get a single delegate. The truth, and this is the truth, President Biden did not want her to be his vice president. That is the truth. She doesn't know foreign policy, and her knowledge of domestic policy is very, very limited. It's limited to the criminal justice system. But we have other issues within domestic policy that we have to address. But he didn't want her to be his vice president. She was not the number one pick. But Joe Biden is a team player, and God bless Joe Biden. I'm telling you, the biggest team player that I believe we have in our political system. This is a man who's been trying to be president since the 80s. He's always stepped down so someone else can step up. He's always taken one for the team, And so he became a team player, allowed her to step in as vice president. Her ratings were lower than his. And then there were issues with the teams. I told you about that. There were issues with the teams not getting along. And I'm saying to myself, Jesus Christ, what are we going to do? Because if the teams are not getting along,
especially at the
then
time,
what's going to happen next? And now here we are. Her numbers ended up being worse than what he had in 2020. She loses the election, and there's still quite a bit of bitterness. And so now we got to have a conversation about how do we really move forward?
Right. And I think that's gonna, like you said, you can't have the same leaders in place and thinking it's going to be a new play, because it's not. And just like you said earlier about the whole way that Nikema was selected, all of that was shady as well. And so, and anytime you're in leadership, when something falls and it doesn't go right, you got to take it because you're the leader.
Exactly. And I can tell you right now, I am not in support of Nikema going to the DNC. So I have sent her a text message. I sent her and John Ossoff a text message. I'm not in favor of her going to the DNC. Yes, that is going to be her next move. We don't need any more musical chairs with these positions. None whatsoever. We have got to get new leaders in place who can come in, deconstruct the current construct, and move this party forward. People are hurting in the state of Georgia. People are hurting in this country. They don't want to hear any more speeches about hope and inspiration, they can feel it in their pockets.
Yeah.
Okay? We have got to do the work for the American people and stop giving them lip service. And we need to make sure that our donors can trust us. And that's going to take a while to rebuild that trust. We can't rebuild that trust with the donors by recycling all of these positions. We need to start on a whole new clean slate.
Yes. And that's what's going to be paramount moving forward. Even, looking on the local level in Georgia, and I remember, being a state legislator down, of course, in the Republican controlled legislature. And usually on the average, you may have gotten 10 Democratic bills out during the whole legislative session that actually went to the governor's desk for signing. And something that some people may not know, that we have in 2 years, we have our U.S. Senate race that's coming up as well. And so all of this is playing, all of this is in the play when you start talking about how Trump, won all those battleground states. Then you look at Georgia, how he really sealed the deal, him and the Republican Party in Georgia, which is going to be play a major factor in 2 years when we have our governor's race, our statewide races is going to be going on. One is, of course, the governor, lieutenant governor, and then also that one U.S. Senate seat that Senator Ossoff is holding now. So it's going to be a lot of, they're going to have to move fast, and they don't have a whole lot of time to do it. And like you said, rebuilding trust is the hardest thing to do when you trusted that the people at the top had the best interests of the people at the bottom. And then you find out frivolous spending was going on, and they really did not put the money in the community like they should have, especially during the time when so many people were suffering. Why aren't you going to ask people to volunteer for canvassing when you had money set aside that you could have paid them and let them be out canvassing, making money, telling their friends? Then you would have saw a huge groundswell of people wanting to go to the polls because they could feel it in their pocket.
Right.
But now they can't, and they're just trying to figure out what we're going to do. What's the next step with that. And that leads me to my next question was, and I've been saying this, so people are just devastated. Some people talk about they leaving the country. Some people couldn't get out the bed. I don't know why. Some people feel the world was coming to an end because now we have 4 years of of this president now that'll be starting in January.
Right.
And one of the things I told him even before is that if you have faith, then that's what's going to have to sustain you through whatever we're going through now. And also look at it as towards, okay, what opportunities can be available for me up on the Republican control on the national level and even on the local level. So my question to you is, will America be all right for the next 4 years, or what things should we be very watchful of when some of these appointments that are now being suggested? And we know that some people don't know that the Senate has to confirm them. So even though the president say this is who I want, the Senate has to confirm him. And there may be some that the Senate just not feeling, that they may say no, and then the president has to go back to the drawing board. And like you said, they play a long game. So they already got their list. Oh, okay, this is going to be the next person that I'm going to recommend. So kind of give us in your opinion, what can America be looking for in the next 4 years?
So first of all, we're going to be okay. Okay. I want everybody to understand that in every presidency, there are ebbs and flows. No presidency is going to be smooth. This one will not be any exception. All right. Now, President Trump is an outsider. He's not a politician by character, culture, or career. He is someone who came in and became president, saw our political system, and made some changes. There is no doubt that he may have some discussions that won't bode well with some of our political leaders outside of the United States. He may disagree with some of our foreign leaders, and that could potentially lead to some military conflict. But at the end of the day, America is a resilient country, and we are going to be okay. That is for sure. People ask me, how in the world did Stacey Abrams lose her gubernatorial race? Brian Kemp had Democrats working with him. How did Donald Trump become the president of the United States? He had some solid Democrats working with him. His cabinet is going to be so diverse that I don't even know if the American people are going to be looking at the partisanship component of it. And I definitely have to speak about the public health, because that's a policy that I work very closely in. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., in spite of what the media says about him, he's probably one of the most brilliant human beings when it comes to the issues of the environment and when it comes to public health. He has been battling the chronic disease epidemic for over 20 years. Wow. And he already has a team ready to go to work on addressing those issues, and also all of the issues involving the processes and all of the issues that even the scientists have to face who are inside of those agencies. He's got his team, and they're ready to go. And so I can tell you, from the standpoint of public health, there are going to be some really good things coming down the pike. And I think that we are going to be on that road to making America healthy again. He's not an anti-vaxxer. And I want to make sure that I say that for the record. He's not, never has been an anti-vaxxer. But he is someone who believes that we need to make sure that all of the products that go on the inside of our bodies go through a multitude of safety testing, because it's more costly to deal with the symptoms than it is to prevent them. So we're going to be okay. I don't want anyone to think that a Trump administration is going to be the end of the world. It's not. In fact, I believe that a President Trump administration is going to strengthen the independent party in many regards. You know, we had independent candidates who ran for president, which, by the way, the DNC and the DCCC, they sued. They took millions of donors' money to sue, so the public wouldn't even give them an opportunity. Right. So, you know, it's that's another example of the mismanagement of resources, in addition to them suing Bobby in every single state to keep him off the ballot, and then turned back around and sued him to keep him on the battleground states ballots. Just really, really weird stuff that they did. But I think that with the President Trump, because he's such an outsider, and because he's so very different, I think that it's going to strengthen the independent party. And I think that people are going to start voting more based on the policies and not necessarily the party. And, right. And I think, honestly, when you look at it, it should be that way. We should be looking at the policies, like which policies are going to work best for us. No, he is not going to take away people's freedoms. There are some things that he cannot do. When it comes to the demolishing of the U.S. Department of Education, that's going to be up to Congress. But again, the Democratic Party screwed that one up. I mean, there is no reason why we should have lost the House. We could have at least kept the House. But I know that we're not going to see the White House until probably again in 2032, because it's just going to take a while for us to get out of this cycle. President Trump is literally more than likely going to be a different kind of president that could be considered transformational in many regards. And so we're going to have to really find our footing as Democrats so that we can at least get back to winning elections. And in the state of Georgia, and I want to mention this too, just going back with Nikema, because when she sent her resignation letter, it was basically a 10-page essay, which was ridiculous. I mean, you could have just said, I'm resigning effectively this date from the DPG chair. Nikema has been a leader in the Democratic Party, Valencia, twice. We still have yet to balance the Georgia General Assembly. As it stands, we are down by 12 to 13. Yeah. We got a long way to go.
Yeah, a long ways to go.
Got a long way to go.
You know, and that comes from them picking and choosing who they want that's going to follow behind them and do what they want them to do in the party.
Right.
And of course, I was not one of those that were going to fall behind and kiss nobody's, you know what, for my position and for the decisions that I made. And it's so funny because all of those mailers that went out on me, phone calls, text messages when I ran for Senate this past May, when we went into the primary runoff, and it slated me as a Republican. And I just laughed and laughed because I was like, oh, to won Georgia. The Republicans won Georgia. But all those were lies. And
Right.
because they didn't want someone who's gonna think independently, uh, in that position, they did everything they could possibly to turn the people and have the people not thinking of, let's look at what the platform is. Let's look at what this person has done in the past. And that's what the people are going to have to start looking forward to now.
And they have to understand, and I said this in 2020, when Joe Biden won the election in 2020, I said, we need to get behind closed doors and we need to have a conversation
Mm-hmm.
because this is not going to be the result in 2024. And I even said then, if we lose another election, we won't get back the White House until 2032 because of how the Republicans move. The one thing that the party has got to understand, you can't burn bridges.
Yep.
This is fundamentally why Stacey Abrams will never, and I mean seriously, will never win a statewide position in the state of Georgia. It doesn't matter how hard she tries. She could even go and do what she does behind closed doors, and you know this, which is
Yes.
dine with the GOP, get in bed with the GOP.
Right.
There's a difference in working with them on policy that we see eye to eye than getting in bed with them. But even if she does that more than what she's doing now, she still won't win an election because she has burned too many bridges. She may win a local election. I'll give her that one. She'll never win a statewide election ever again in the state of Georgia. You cannot burn bridges and think that you won't cross them again. This is fundamentally why those Democrats had no problem going over and helping Brian Kemp. Same thing on the national level, why the Democrats had no problem consulting with President Trump. You don't burn bridges. And the way that they burn bridges is something that you just never, ever forget. We've got to have some hard conversations behind closed doors. We got to have some serious discussions. And we got to air out our dirty laundry. We're going to have to be honest about some stuff that we haven't been honest with the public about. Because, yes, people are trying to figure out how in the world did we win so much in 2020, but we didn't win in 2024. Well, we let Stacey take the wheel, and she did some workarounds. And those of us who do this work, we know what the workarounds are. So we're going to have to be honest because the public expects the same outcomes that we once had. But let me be clear. Georgia is not a battleground state. Georgia is still very much a red state. Very much so. All right. We got very lucky in 2020. I'm very concerned about what's going to happen with Jon Ossoff's seat because he actually is doing a very good job on the Hill. And I was invited to an event and got a chance to meet some people in the super PAC from the other side. And so I'm very concerned about what's going to happen with Jon Ossoff's seat in 2026. Again, he's doing an extraordinary job. I do think he needs to make some staff changes. He doesn't have quite the ideal staff at the DC level that I think will help him. So he does need to make some staff changes. But overall, on the Hill, he does an extraordinary job. And so I would like to see him keep that Senate seat. But we've got to do some different kind of work, and we're going to have to learn how not to sabotage each other. What they did to you was unthinkable. You've never met Donald Trump. You've never met Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay? You don't even know who those people are. And so for that young lady to even co-sign to that malicious mailer to go out, I think it's repulsive. People like that don't ever need to be in the Democratic Party. And it's those people who you have to be worried about. The sabotage from within. And even President Trump mentioned it. The enemy from within. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You know, we have some work that we're gonna have to do and understand nobody owns a seat.
Right.
These seats all belong to the United States taxpayers. Okay. All of these seats are paid on the backs of other people's hard work. All
Yeah.
right. Nobody owns a seat. And so we have to lead with that mindset. And hopefully, this loss is going to be the wake up call that is needed to change the party. But I'm just not too sure, particularly on the national level, just simply because they have a whole different mindset. The DNC is deemed a corporation. This is how Bernie Sanders ended up losing his election. He sued the DNC in 2016. A lot of people don't know that. He sued the DNC because of what they did to him. He was supposed to be our presidential nominee.
Yeah.
But you know, they backstabbed him. He sued them, and the ruling came down that the DNC is a corporation and they can pick their nominee. Same thing with the DPG. That's how Nikema got in. I mean, she was selected.
Yeah.
Nakima was not
That's
elected. And contrary to popular belief, she is not doing a good job. And
no.
those who sit here and say that she is are the ones who are benefiting from her. She is
Exactly.
not doing a good job. The number one responsibility of the DPG chair is to what? Get Democrats elected. When
Yeah.
I see that General Assembly get a balance of 50-50, I
Yeah.
might think that she's done a good job.
Yeah. She's definitely has not done a good job. She's done a good job with causing chaos.
Oh,
Over
absolutely.
she's done an excellent job on causing chaos. And someone even mentioned about, with the rise of the independents. In 2020, I ran as an independent in the special election for US Senate. And a lot of people, have been asking, hey, Valencia, especially even look what happened in Athens, Clark County, where we know that the Republicans helped their independent to be able to win that attorney general seat in Clark County. And so I think that that's the other issue that the Democrats are going to have to strategize on. How do we keep keep influx from going over to the independent party because of their dissatisfaction, and then even with us, with a lot of people don't know that Georgia does not recognize a third party. It's only the Democrat and the Republicans when it comes down to qualifying for elections. All independents have to go and get a certain number of percentage of voters to sign a petition in order to get on the ballot. And like you said, all of the work that DNC did against the third party candidates, instead of letting them let the people decide who they want, they went out of their way spending all that money to fight against them. And so it's going to be, they're going to have an uphill battle of convincing people that the Democratic Party is for the people, because a lot of people seeing something different. Someone even mentioned about Project 2025, and we got maybe about five more minutes to kind of round this out. But so everybody's been in, and I've said this before, that Project 2025 didn't just come on the scene. It's something that comes up every presidential election.
Yeah.
It's and it's because of a lot of the fear mongering that goes out into the airwaves, that they were able to really push it, say yes. And like I like something that you said earlier, is that people think that the president could do everything. One thing is that we have a constitution, and believe it or not, y'all, there are some people that are elected up in Washington, D.C., that believes more in the Constitution than anything else. And because of that, that's why the Constitution is guarded when it comes down to a balance of power. That's why you had the three branches. Y'all remember learning that in school. You had the three branches of government, because it has to be a balance. If you let one take over, that's dictatorship or oligarchy. And so we don't have that here in America. And I'm glad that you mentioned that about America would be, all right. And one other thing I did want to mention, that I'll let you give the final remarks. Even when I think about Robert Kennedy, with the foundation that he has in politics because of the Kennedy family, he's not going up to Washington, D.C. blindly and don't know anything. One thing about it, like you said, you don't burn bridges because you build relationships. The Kennedy family has built relationships over the years. Even when his uncle Ted Kennedy was U.S. senator in office, so he's not going and don't know anything about the ins and outs of how the U.S. government works. Oh, he knows that very well, even with because of the position that his dad had. So I did want to throw that in because sometimes people forget about history, and we can't forget about history because it's what guides us into the future. But with that, Cherise, I give you some final thoughts, and I, really appreciate you taking time out your busy schedule, especially during this time of the post-election season, because a lot of things are going on. So please give us your final thoughts with everything that's going on and anything else that you want to say.
I think that the public this time is going to have to get more involved in the political system than they ever have gotten involved before, particularly on the Democratic side. It is going to be very tough, and I can't state that any more than what I'm stating it now. It is going to be very, very tough for us to win elections in the next 4 years. Okay. The media, the legacy media, mainstream media, we know as a result of President Trump winning, we know that the people don't even look at or trust legacy media anymore.
Right.
All the reason why I have made a comment to some journalists, stop talking about Bobby Kennedy. Because if you keep calling this man an anti-vaxxer, knowing he's not anti-vax, knowing that he is very much pro-vax, but if you keep calling him an anti-vaxxer, a COVID denialist, you know what he's going to do? He's going to go to President Trump. He's going to say, declassify this information so I can give it to the American people. And everything is going to hit the fan. We need to be truthful about where we are in our political system. And we need to allow this administration, we don't have to agree with everything, but we need to allow this administration to do the work that they are going to do. And I can assure you, there are some of appointees that President Trump has selected, cabinet picks, that are not going to get appointed. I know that for a fact. Matt Gaetz, his attorney general, is going to have a very much uphill battle. Every Republican in the United States Senate isn't a gopher.
Right.
See, Nikema Williams is a gopher. Nikema will go for whatever. Whatever Democrats said, that's what I'm going for. She don't really think for herself. Another reason why she needs to go back into the private sector. But anyway, every senator in the United States Senate does not think the same. So, but we do need to allow this administration the opportunity, particularly in the area of public health. We need to allow that policy to go through. We are going to be okay. Project 2025, I can talk about that for another hour. We don't have time. But just understand this. The president does not have absolute power. Okay? He does not have absolute power. We live in a democracy. All right? And we have a United States Congress who has to vote unanimously with majority as well in order to get any major policy passed. So I don't think that we need to have such a great concern about Project 2025. We are going to be okay. There is a cultural shift taking place in this country that is mostly generational. So we got to start thinking about that and moving in that space. Don't allow what comes through that television to scare you. I want you to understand that there are shareholders and brokers behind the media. Many of them are going to lose their jobs if they don't pump narratives that can keep you watching.
Right.
Don't focus on that. Focus on your household, stay in contact with your legislators, put the demands in place for what you want to see. And just because it's a Republican does not mean that they won't work for you.
Right.
If it's a Republican in office and you're a Democrat, they still have to work for you. They
Right.
still have to serve you. And I can assure you, if you're a Democratic veteran and you call any congressional member actually in Congress, you don't have to call just the Georgia congressional. You can call any of them up in Washington. They're going to help you. If you are a Republican and you're a veteran and you call John Ossoff or Raphael Warnock as a GOP, they will help you. If you're battling Social Security, they will help you. Their job is to help the American people. That doesn't have a party label.
Right. Well, you all heard it straight from Cherise's mouth. Y'all, America's gonna be okay. I told you that before, but hey, I got some confirmation. And you all, like you said, you just sit back and watch. Stay actively involved in the political process. That's the most important part, so you'll know what's going on, and you don't have to believe everything you read or see on the TV. If you're involved, in your community, you'll know what's going on. So thank you, Cherise, so very much for your insight. This was a great interview with issues and answers. We're talking about loyalty part 2 after the elections or post-elections. So you're welcome to stay on if you want to. I'll go into my next segment, which is called What Time Is Say What? So I come up with some things that people be like, what? I didn't know that was going on. And then I give my announcements, and then it's be almost time for me to close up and get up out of here, y'all. But thank you again so very much, Cherise. I just could not thank you enough for bringing that insight on the national level as well as the state level. We'll definitely have to have you come back, maybe in February after the president's been sworn in and everybody's been sworn in, and they kind of give us some other insight of what's going on. So thank you so very much, and enjoy the rest of your day, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Thank you so much, Valencia.
All right. All right, y'all. So I do my say what time is it? It's say what time. I didn't do it my last show, but I think y'all gonna like this one. So since this is presidential election season, I came across some history on a piece of land that was dedicated to the United States by Queen Elizabeth on May the 14th, 1965. Now, did you know you could be on U.S. soil without leaving England? Come on, y'all. Did you know you could be on U.S. soil in England? So you're in another country, but there's some U.S. soil that if you stand on that soil, guess what? You're in the United States. Well, the John F. Kennedy Memorial in Runnymede, Surrey, England, or Surrey, England, I don't know if it's Surrey or Surrey, is a memorial to the life of the assassinated U.S. president. The memorial stone itself is a 7-ton block of Portland stone. It's carved with the words of Kennedy's inaugural address that he made on January the 20th, 1961. And with that stone, it's a 50 unique steps. So there are steps leading up to the stone, and there are 50 of them representing our 50 states in America. And it was dedicated because of its symbolic significance in the history of democracy and is linked to the American Constitution. So they chose this particular place, Queen Elizabeth did, and after the assassination, they wanted to dedicate this particular area. And when she did it, she donated that soil or that area, that land to the United States for perpetuity. So that means there's no end to it, but it's still up under, still in England. But I just thought that was amazing, especially since we're in the presidential election. So you have, people, presidents who've done such a great impact, not just in the United States, but worldwide. And him and his wife, Jacqueline Kennedy, did visit Queen Elizabeth before, and had dinner and everything. And then when she got ready to do the dedication, she invited his widow, back when they actually dedicated this particular land. But it's called the John F. Kennedy Memorial in Runnymede, Surrey, England. So you could be in England and be on U.S. soil. So I thought that was awesome. I was looking at something on my phone and came across. I said, "Oh, I have to talk about that." So for announcements, we have nominations for the ML King Jr. Advisory Council. So there are 5 awards that they'll be given out. And guess what? Y'all have until this Friday for you to be able to nominate someone in 5 categories. So we had a Reverend Joseph E. Lowry Civil Rights Award, Ambassador Andrew J. Young Humanitarian Award, Rita Jackson Samuels Founders Award, and this particular award is dedicated to women business owners who've done humanitarian outstanding things in their community. So that's what that one is, a John R. Lewis Lifetime Achievement Award. So you all, it's no reason, people in your community, you might, even yourself, you might want to nominate yourself. You can self-nominate. And I'm going to put the link in my comment section, but it's the bit.ly/King Advisory Council 25. And that's where you would go to nominate. And like I said, you have till Friday. And what happens every year, the state of Georgia has a commemorative program where the high officials in the state are there to recognize the dedication of the work that Dr. King has done internationally. And so at the state capitol, the governor uses speech, the lieutenant governor, the speaker of the house, and we usually have someone representative from the King family that's there as well to help when we're giving out these awards. I was appointed to the committee. This is, I think, my second year on now, might be third year on now. And I was appointed as a non-elected official by the late Speaker Ralston. And you all have heard me, even when I first got appointed, I talked about that. And even when you heard Cherise talking about Republicans, Speaker Ralston was a Republican and I was a Democrat, but, he looked beyond partisanship and saw, dedication and things that I had done and wanted to allow me to be rewarded by serving on this prestigious advisory council. So I'm pushing this out. So someone that may meet those categories. When I put the link in the comment section, you could go and find out what are the criterias for each one of the categories. So y'all don't let it miss out, because I want to see somebody I know in January. So January the 17th is when we will be doing the commemorative awards event, and it is open to the public. So anybody can come down to the state capitol on January the 17th. I think the time is going to be about 10, but you'll hear me announcing it. The next award announcement is the Georgia Single Parent Recognition and Awards event. Yay! Now, how many of y'all remember that House Resolution 279 designates March the 21st of every year in the state of Georgia as Single Parents Day? Yay! So that was my second piece of legislation that was signed into law by then Governor Deal. And I want to appreciate National Leadership Group and Real Parents, Beverly, Brewster, Tom, Lenora, all of those that are on the committee, the planning committee, all the work that we've done. We've been doing this since 2019, y'all. So every year we open up this nomination, and we have 6 categories: education, medical, medical and health, community service, business owner, and public service. Now we're looking for those single parents, whether they're male or female, that have done an outstanding job raising their children. Now, we don't want them to just be a single parent. That's not enough. They need to have done an outstanding job, something that's so commendable that they should be recognized. And we do recognize our single parents. Like I said, male or female, we don't discriminate as far as that part. The nominations will be until the 14th of December. So y'all have to December the 14th to nominate your single parent for 2025. Guess what, y'all? We're going to be down at the state capitol on March the 21st, which is on a Friday, celebrating our single parents. And then on that Saturday is when we have our annual event, which is going to be our awards of recognition and awards, our Legacy Builders event. And so you could go to nationallg.org and click on it, and it'll take you to the website to make your nomination for your single parent. And I'm so excited every year when we talk about what single parents are doing, because they go through a lot. I was a single parent. Those of us that are helping, a lot of us were single parents. So we want to recognize them, lift them up, and we also have our membership that you can join, Georgia Single Parent Coalition. So if you want to be a part, you don't have to be a single parent to be a part of the coalition. And you can also, when you go to the website, we have tickets on sale. If you want to be a sponsor, we need sponsors to be able to sponsor this event. And so make sure you go to nationallg.org for nationalleadershipgroup.org. So it's nationallg.org. So make sure you go there and nominate your single parent. And we also have souvenir ads. So if you would like to put your business or you have a single parent that you want to recognize and put them in our souvenir booklet, you can do that. I don't know if y'all can see it real good, probably not, but this was our booklet from last year. And so it's a hardcover booklet, very professional. And I'm just excited because, of course, I was the first signer on that particular bill. So, I'm going to always pump that up. But we work with some great people with that. So nationallg.org. And my time is almost up. And so the Clayton County Collaborative Leaders Meeting. So this is a group that I facilitate through working with Hand, Heart, and Soul Project and the SNAP Ed, where we are educating our community about physical activity, increasing physical activity, nutrition access, and nutrition and food access. So it's 3 areas. So we're going to be meeting on this Wednesday if you're in the Clayton County area at 1 p.m. at Northwest Library on Riverdale Road. That's the newest library that we have in Clayton County. And it is free to attend. When we're looking for business leaders, nonprofit leaders, faith-based, community, and government people that are either you're elected or appointed, because we need you to come out. We need to start looking at what things that we have that are jewels in our county that we could be able to utilize to make sure that we are improving access, food access. A lot of people are going through a lot when it comes down to food, those food pantries. How do we get that information out? How do we teach people about the best way to be able to cook some of these fruits and vegetables they usually would not even pick up at the store? Or when they're using their SNAP benefits, which we know it as food stamps, how they best maximize. They get double when they're making purchases on some items. So that's what our leadership group is doing. We have a goal, a goal of 200 leaders, but hey, I'm pushing for 100, and then we get to 200. That's it. But on my end, I have to recruit 100 leaders. So if you're interested, come out on Wednesday. Join me at 1:00 at Northwest Library in Clayton County. All right, so I think I have about 2 minutes left. Again, thank you all for joining the show. This will be our last one for the fall season. So guess what? We're going to be back January the 6th, kicking off a new year, a new season when it comes to issues and answers. And all things must come to an end. We will be back, like I said, January the 6th at 4 p.m. The goal of Issues and Answers with yours truly is to educate you on those things you might not think about unless you are in a situation to be concerned. And today was a situation to be concerned about when it came down to post-election and whether you're loyal to a party or loyal to the people. And so we want to keep you educated and keep you abreast of everything that's going on so that you can be informed, and especially moving into this new year, positioning yourself and making sure that you stay in contact with those elected officials, because they ask for that job and you have to hold them accountable so that your community can be better. But thank you all. Have a good and safe Thanksgiving. Have a good and safe Christmas and holiday season in December. And we'll see y'all back at the top of 2025. All right. See y'all later.